Hey everyone, thanks for checking out this video. This should be hopefully pretty short and sweet because this is going to serve as pointing you guys to the VOD that Pyromancer addresses the entire situation and his frustration and all the things that are going on behind the scenes that I think really give his expression and his outburst a lot of context and a lot more better understanding. And so that's always kind of the point within all the content that I make here, and especially since we reacted to the full post itself, this should hopefully serve as kind of a button, a button or bow, one of the two, to that entire situation. Now, if you're not interested or you don't use Twitch and you just kind of want to get, I think, the key, point that he is making, I'm going to play it for you right now, and then we're going to talk about a couple things and some ideas I have about the whole situation itself. But hopefully you guys enjoy this clip.
About World of Warcraft, I get defensive because it's not true. And so it's hypocritical of me to make any kind of blanket statement about the FF community. And I think in my anger yesterday, I did that. And so I would like to apologize for that because you guys are not that. Most of the people that I have interacted with are not this. Like, this is really weird. And I think that I feel just sort of blindsided by the gravity and like insanity of what has happened. You know what I mean? And again, I think it's, I think it comes to me being just too sensitive to people criticizing me or me thinking they're criticizing me and feeling like I need to defend myself or come up with some kind of way to make up for it immediately. And when I can't do it, I just get panicky and I get overwhelmed. And I just got to find a way for that not to be the case, man. I just got to find a way. I want to make this clear as well. Like, while there are some apologies mixed in with what I said today is not on the note of that name. Today is not an apology stream. Today is not me trying to suck up and wallow in pity before the that you might grant me succor. Like, I'm not. That's not what I'm doing. I actually just want to take responsibility for what I fucking said and the way that I get way too mad and act. But also give context to like my issue that is fucking that puts me there and how I struggle to get out of it. So that is what it is. And I hope that people understand that it's genuine because I don't have any reason to not be at this point. Like,
All right, so we should always, kind of my first thought is applaud self-improvement. We're not perfect. Nobody is perfect. Just because somebody puts themselves on camera doesn't also mean that they're going to be impervious to normal human stressors. And so a couple of the things that Pyromancer talks about through his entire, apology, and also I would say it's not just a full apology because there's things that he apologized for, rightfully so, but there's also things that he doesn't need to apologize for, like essentially the 4chan, 5chan raids, the reporting, all the things that are kind of going on behind the scenes. Like, that's a lot of things that are going to add a lot of stress, and especially if you're live and you're getting fed reports from Twitch that people are kind of, trying to get you in trouble, because of whatever reason, because they decided that you're going to be their target for the day, like hopefully provides some context to it. Now, he goes into a lot of detail, and when it comes down to it, when they start talking about, his ADHD, like I said in my previous video, like, I'm nowhere near qualified to talk about those kind of impacts. And I think he actually addresses the situation very beautifully. So I'd highly encourage you to go watch the full context of everything he says. I think it's worth your time. And again, link is below. But a couple other things, and essentially kind of this is just my how I would essentially have approached the situation, because he talked about how using the tools available to him, to protect himself. And he goes into the fact that, like, Facebook, they found his Facebook page because when he did do the strike on that original video, it did show his name. So while there's more than one person in the world with this name, they did find his Facebook, and that's not anything that we should applaud. That's not anything that we should celebrate at all. Everybody has their right to privacy, even if they're in the public and being kind of an entertainer in the terms of streaming. But I digress, a little bit on that regards. So he goes on to talk about obviously that level of stress and why he used those tools to protect himself. And I think essentially like how I would have handled that differently if he decides to listen to this video in any degree. I'm going to talk about a couple other things here just in a second, so you might want to stick around for that. But how I would have handled it is I would have actually then taken that clip, that moment, and actually uploaded it to my channel. Like if, let's say that was me, my situation, and I would have labeled it something like not my best moment. And maybe I would have provided some context so that you guys had the full story, because essentially what was happening is people were just obviously just re-uploading that clip in light of the fact that he was striking it down. So it was that Streisand effect completely going against him in that regards, because I think there's something where if you want something hidden, or you wish that you handled it better, but you go and say, hey, you don't post that, that's essentially where things blow up. Now, a lot of people also kind of assume that I was saying that he didn't have the right to, which goes against exactly what I said. No, he has every right to actually strike those videos. Those are his clips. They were not edited. They were not transformative. They weren't. People weren't putting opinions on them. They did not fall under fair use protection. And I don't know why I kind of like protection. The Fort Worth came out in me a little bit. So he had every right of it. And essentially what it ends up going against him, though, is that the look of it is that he's trying to keep people from seeing it. And essentially I would have, in my case, the best advice I would say is like, you own the moment, right? Like own it as a moment of like humanity in that regards. Yes, it's not your best. It's not the best look. But what he put on Twitch, I think, is such a better look. And to come back, from a moment like that with a clear head and clear vision, to be able to kind of explain oneself, I think is a really good thing. And that's where in streaming, like, I don't, we tend to put people, who are, I guess, public on a pedestal. We tend to look at these numbers that are by people's names and say, oh, that means that, we like to build people up and then we love to knock them down. That's a weird social thing with society in that regards. It's something maybe inherent into our DNA that's evolved into the internet age. I don't know. I'm not an expert in that regards. I can speak when I am an expert, or would be considered something in some areas when it comes down to programming, DevOps, things like that. That's what I speak to, because that's what I know a lot about. But the in this case, essentially, like I'm going to kind of transition to kind of two things that kind of floated to me, because people were saying things that I wasn't saying. One, they said that I didn't reach out, and you guys can see the email that I put out right here. I did, and I reached out to him, in a public, on his public email that he provided, and let it wait for I think it was 6 or 7 hours before I actually go ahead and making my video, especially when the original went down. That's the only reason I ended up making that video, specifically going through the entire thing, because the source video cut down, I don't think tells the full story. I think even gaps in the conversation provide a lot of information. And I usually default to, I guess, individual responsibility on the part of the viewer if they want to go and try to, learn more about essentially what everybody's talking about. The other side of it is the psychoanalysis. Somebody said that people were trying to label that what I was doing was trying to psychoanalyze like his mood and his behavior. And if you go watch the clips, I don't think you get that whatsoever. That's not who I am or what I do. In fact, actually, I specifically state that, like, guys, he's saying something about ADHD. I have no authority to comment on it. The only thing I've heard about ADHD is that they've named it all ADHD. And back when I was growing up in high school, you had ADD, ADHD, and that's the last I've kind of heard about it. I'm not diagnosed with it, even though some people have asked me if I have it, to which I haven't really cared to go and find out. So I never felt qualified to comment on it, nor would I comment on anything regarding mental health in that regards. I think mental health is absolutely important, that people take care of themselves. And in content creation, there's an added level to it. There's an added level of stressors that comes in this form of unknown. You can almost equate it to being kind of an independent business person, in which that's something that I do. And so that as I'm independent, sometimes things are good, sometimes things are harder. And essentially sometimes you just have to kind of weather the storm and to know when it's time to take, honestly, a nap. And I'm not saying that he needs to go take a nap. I'm more or less talking about myself, is that sometimes when you kind of hit these moments of these stressors and anxiety, and it's good that he also says that he's talking with somebody, which is very important. I think I would highly encourage that in anybody, especially if you're struggling with things. We all struggle with things, guys. The thing that actually connects all of us in this entire situation is that we all struggle with our own BS, right? We all have our own problems. We all have our personality quirks that we wish that could be better, and then we constantly work on. And sometimes these things take time. And so I think out of all of what he's stated on Twitch should be celebrated. I think essentially we should always root for people to try and be better and to hopefully have these moments. And yes, you could always say, like, you could point to anybody, like, let's just focus on me in this case, because I'm a YouTuber and that's what we do, right? Is the point is that, like, you could look at a pattern and say, like, well, he's done this before, or like Brian's done this before, or something like that. And it's like, well, yeah, like, has he grown? Has he learned? Has he evolved? Is it something that is, you know, a part of his, you know, who he is as a person? And the goal is that we should always root for people to want to be better and to be better. And I honestly also think that we want to believe people too. I think we live in this, like, the internet can easily make us so cynical really easily, because like it becomes so formulaic in terms of how it all functions. And the thing is that the internet isn't a real place. Like the value it derives is for the value that we end up kind of just laying on top of it and saying, oh, this has got value. But like, you then go put those people in the same room and you have a whole different experience. Like, I've often, you know, gotten, you know, logged off from the day and be like, man, the internet's on fire today. And then you go out and everything's just peaceful and quiet and serene, and you know, people are nice to each other and things like that. And I think essentially the internet has the tendency to bring out our worst sides. It can also elevate us and bring out our best sides if we allow it or if we look for it. So anyway, guys, I think you should absolutely go check out the Pyro section. It starts like around 15-16 minutes. It runs you know, for at least 45, and I think it's essentially definitely worth your time to have the full context. I ask that you listen to his words, not with the eyes of a cynic, but also with the eyes of somebody that, you know, roots for redemption and wants everything to be better, because he also kind of pointed this thing out in his thing, and what he's going to do in terms of actions regarding the whole mods thing, because there's actually a couple like forces at play in this whole thing. He wants to take what he likes about the mods and actually provide that feedback to the devs of what they could bring into the game. And that's the exactly thing that we want, right? Because you have the two sides that want mods and you don't want mods, right? Terms of service versus like, oh, but the mods add value. Well, let's bridge the gap and find that happy middle ground. And to that, I think that's exactly what we want within the community, within the game, within, you know, like within all of this, is to say, like, well, how can Final Fantasy 14 be improved? Now, I hope that he follows through, makes that video. I'm very much excited to hear what he wants to be see added. Like, his UI honestly looked great. Like, I was like, wow, like, I don't use mods, but dadgum, like that. Let's see if we can't, you know, root for Yoshi P and the team to get there. Let's give them that feedback. And so hopefully he also makes that video, but post it on the forum so that the devs themselves can also get that level of feedback. And I think that's the real lesson here, you know, in terms of what was kind of the kerosene to the match. But then also at the same time, like, it isn't good to attack people. It isn't good, you know, to sit here and try to get people, you know, banned in that regards. And also, like, people let me know, Asmongold was reacting to my video. I got to kind of hang out part of that live. There was one part, especially on Ginger JRPG, where I said that I think that he should get that. When I was talking about a ban, I was talking about the 10-day kind of ban that they issue for people who are violating the terms of service, because I do believe that essentially if you're going to have terms and you're going to say we are enforcing them, to actually then enforce them in that regards. And I think that means fairly across the board, and that nobody gets special privileges. I shouldn't get special privileges. Content creators shouldn't get special privileges. Players shouldn't get special privileges. It should be, if you're going to have a policy, it should be applied evenly. I'm not calling anybody to be permanently banned. I think a couple people thought that, and in my mind, people might say that's a suspension. In my world, in my brain, I always think of that word as ban and permaban, and maybe that's because my Halo days, you know, back in the day. That's just how I guess it got burned into how I think of the word and what it means, you know. But, you know, we can always have that, and I can hopefully evolve my language skills as they are want to be improved. Anyway, hopefully you guys got something good out of this video. Hopefully this is the end of that that saga in that regards, and we're still going to obviously have the terms of service and the mods and you know, that whole system, and that, you know, that's going to be a point of contention. And I think Yoshi P does owe it to the community at some point to really kind of talk about a plan. I think essentially I don't need answers right away, but it would be really nice to hear kind of what he's gathering that these tools do, and then maybe some kind of roadmap, as we already have a roadmap in that regards. But anyway, I don't want to make this video about me too much. I don't want to make this longer than it needs to be. Thanks guys for your time. Go check out the VOD, and hopefully from here as a community, we just keep getting better and better. So thanks for listening. Talk to you next time.
Yeah. It's time to chill out on the couch and read some comments. That's right. You know me when it comes to Destiny. I'm off with a clan, and I'm glad you're feeling better. Oh yeah.